Time now for 3 to Watch, where we check out where the big stories will be headed this week.
Conservatives are trying to get the RCMP to investigate abortions as murders.
I'm not opening this debate.
We are the pro-life.
I'm not going to open it. The public doesn't want to open it.
We weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time.
We would really like you to run for president.
Well, I am not thinking about anything like that right now.
No worries, man. Everything will be all right.
You missed the spot.
Oh boy, here to tell us where they think the 3 to Watch are heading are 3 panelists. Marnie Supkoff, blogs editor at Huffington Post Canada. Adam Goldenberg, a human rights fellow at Yale Law School and a former Liberal speechwriter. And John Moore, a news talk radio host and columnist for the National Post. So here we go with our #1 story to watch, the rumblings on abortion.
This government, myself included, have made it very clear that the government does not intend to change the law in this regard.
That's the Prime Minister this week, insisting the government isn't touching the abortion issue after 3 Conservative MPs called for the investigation of nearly 500 later-term abortions as murders. Since the Conservatives gained a majority, backbenchers have opened up debate in the House. Voters are bringing it up too. So could an abortion battle be on the horizon? So, Marnie, what do you think? Is this just a few backbenchers, or is there something actually happening here?
I think there's something actually happening. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think it's going to take years and years. But I think that what is happening is the middle, which is the vast majority of Canadians who are not on the extreme one way or the other, but are starting to realize that we're operating with a complete void in the abortion area. No one likes to visit this topic if you're a politician, or at least the vast majority don't. But if you're just a normal everyday person, you're starting to be reminded by various things like sex selective abortions, things like these issues that keep coming up thanks to backbenchers bringing them up. And I think that over the years, it's slowly going to get to people and get to the point where people are going to start to think, you know what, we're not saying we need some radical change, but it does make sense that we should have some law on the books and some guidelines so that it's not just a completely wide open situation as it is now.
So, John, is change coming, do you think?
I don't think so. I think the Prime Minister's clever about all things. And in this case, and I don't want to flatter him too much, but I think in this case what he's doing is allowing, backbenchers to mouth off and to bring up issues that are important to the base. But he knows that if he wants to maintain a certain center core of support that is going to keep him in office, he can't reopen it. What they're doing, though, is, and we've seen this in the States an awful lot, when you take something that sounds particularly objectionable and you have to kind of exaggerate it to make it sound even worse, then people do start talking about it again. And when we talk about late-term abortions, I mean, what we're talking about here is about 50 a year, horrible cases where, for example, a baby does not have a brain. And so they induce, perform an abortion and induce the birth, and then there is some small sign of life before it dies. To call that a homicide, I think, is just trying to be incendiary and trying to stir the debate up where, it doesn't
Adam.
need to be.
I don't think there's enough cold water in all the Great Lakes for the Prime Minister to put on this issue, and I think he would if he could. There's a reason that he has breakfast with his cat and not with his backbench MPs. This Prime Minister does not like talking about abortion. That will not change. He knows it's a loser for him and for his party. And as long as he is the leader of the Conservative Party, that party will not go further than having backbench MPs do these one-off attempts to raise that issue. I just don't see it happening.
Do you think it's a longer leash?
I think
that he's given
maybe,
them?
you know what, maybe now that the Tories have a majority, these MPs feel like they can get away with a little bit more, and it seems like they can.
But maybe it'll lead to what Marty's talking about, that people will have to talk about it.
I don't think we're going to hear a lot from these 3 MPs for a very long time. There's going to be the sound of silence from this corner of the Conservative backbench. The reason being, I don't think Harper wants to talk about this,
he
and there's nothing to change that mind.
I absolutely agree on that point. Harper does not want to talk about it, and he should not want to talk about it. You know what? No politician should want to talk about it because it's a political minefield. However, what these politicians are doing is tapping into a sense that I think the majority of Canadians have, that there's something a little bit not right about the fact that we are one of the only countries in the world that is operating with a complete void here, with absolutely no limits, even on the very extreme cases.
Sure, it's kind of a null debate, and that's the problem. When you spark it up, Gort St. Clair always said nobody ever changed their minds about abortion. So you can have the debate, and you can have a free and open discussion, and no one's going to change their minds.
Got to move on. Story #2.
I will miss you.
Hillary Clinton finished her stint as U.S. Secretary of State, but she leaves with a soaring approval rating and new super PACs already pushing for a 2016 presidential bid. Hillary says a presidential run isn't on her mind right now, but does anyone believe her? What do you think, Adam?
Well, I think as long as Hillary Clinton doesn't become president, she's destined to die with her options open. She's going to do very little to compromise what is a very promising candidacy, should she choose to make it a candidacy. And I think that we're going to hear very little from her in the next little while. Remember, the problem that Hillary Clinton has is she can't go out and take broad positions on global issues that even remotely seem to be undercutting the Democratic administration of which she was recently part. John Kerry is now her successor at the State Department. She can't go and be a second Secretary of State. So look for her to do good works. Look for her to give good lectures on how America can consolidate its place in the world and do some good. But she's not going to run for another year or two at the most.
What are you watching for, John?
Well, the minute she says she's running, she has to start running. So, take some time off, rest, spend a little time with Bill, make your millions, write another memoir, but she's running. And what I think is so amazing is that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, Obama's too polite. Obama allows people to lie and fib and say things that aren't true and have false talking points. And the Clintons, as you saw at the convention,
like to fight.
They love to fight. They like a good knife fight. And I'm just waiting because, in talk radio, you hear the talking points. I'm waiting for Hillary is faking being sick in order to not testify against Benghazi. That's what they said. The next thing that they're going to say is, well, if she had that head injury, maybe she's not fit to be president. She could have a health issue here.
Well, and she's old. That's the other argument that you keep hearing.
Mid-60s isn't old. Come on.
So she'll be almost 70 when
Reagan
she's
was, what,
running.
72?
She's kind of a superwoman, though. What do you think, Marty?
Yeah, well, I agree. I think she's definitely running. I would be totally shocked if she didn't run. And I think that she is probably going to lay low for a bit. But I think she does have some work to do. She has some work to try and get to the point where people don't mention her and Benghazi in the same sentence every time she's mentioned. And I think that the best she can do is hope that some time is going to pass and that by the time she does run, that those two are not as intertwined.
Well, look, Hillary Clinton is always most popular when she isn't running for president. And the last couple of years, she's been above politics as Secretary of State. If she starts wading in even a little bit, that's when I think, as John said, the knives come back out, and she's in trouble.
But I think Benghazi is a fixation in the Twittersphere and on blogs and on pundits. I don't think people really understand what happened, and you can't really pin it on her either.
Well, people might not understand what happened, but they know that she is somehow involved. That as Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, Benghazi, it all goes together, and it might even be to her detriment that they don't understand it. Because but she will always, I think, be, it's going to be with her always. And usually you come out of a position like Secretary of State and people kind of think, I don't know, I can't tell you what they did, I can just tell you their name. With her, she now has this, and it's a burden she has to carry, and I think she wants to get rid of it. That's right.
Gotta move on to story number 3. With this year's Super Bowl ads, sex sells, and also apparently racial stereotypes.
Don't fret me, brother. Sticky bun comes soon.
Another thing that sells, controversy. But after the office worker with a fake Jamaican accent and a Kate Upton car wash, what's next? What do you think here, John? Where do we go for? Well, do you even think that they're controversial or offensive in any way?
I don't, but I'm not easily offended. I mean, the Jamaican one, all of us, every time we've played that in studio, we've all smiled. Every time I've played it on the radio, my callers say they think it's funny. I talk to Jamaicans, they think it's funny. I think the one with the, soaping up the Mercedes is kind of tacky, but not outrageous. This, for me, is just this product of this outrage machine now, where we're constantly trying to find something that somebody is outraged about, and then we interview the outraged person, and then in my case, I open up the phones, and everyone calls in and says,
here we are again.
Big deal.
We keep talking about, we're not mentioning the brands, though.
No.
We're the problem.
What do you think, Marty?
I think, I don't think there's a whole lot to be outraged about in these particular spots. Although I think it is interesting that people have taken on the Jamaican ad as being the more controversial one, or I certainly have heard more controversy about that one than about the Kate Upton one. And from my point of view, when I watched the two of them, the Kate Upton one, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want my kids to watch this particular ad.
Yeah, but you're probably not. Right. Yeah, you're probably not the audience. It is.
No, it's clearly not aimed for me.
I mean, stereotypes are dangerous territory, but I mean, the stereotype in the Jamaican ad is what? Jamaicans are happy. They like cars. I mean, there's not much there to grab onto if you want to be offended. But someone will take offense. Make no mistake. But it's a win-win when they do. The companies that are running these ads get them on television. Hello, here we are. for free. They get them on John's show, again, without paying for that airtime. And then the people who take offense to them get to raise their objections and get their names in the paper and their voices on the radio just the same. So everybody's winning here. So maybe we should just be happy for them.
Well, and apparently they tested it on 100 Jamaicans.
100 Jamaicans.
100
right?
Jamaicans say
real scientific
it's
sample.
fine.
Jamaicans can't be wrong.
But where do we go from here? I mean, if that's okay to do the fake accents and so on, I mean, is blackface okay? Is it okay to do slanty eyes? I mean, where's the line?
Well, Adam kind of hit on it. I mean, what are we celebrating? Happy Jamaicans. Blackface is a direct insult because it always was about making fun of the fecklessness of black people, for example. So I think, you know what, it's like, who was the Supreme Court Justice who said, I'll know it when I see it, about pornography. I think we know when it's genuinely offensive.
Well, I was wondering if perhaps these ads were almost showing we're post-racist or post-feminist, but you're offended by it.
Apparently I'm not, yeah. No, but I think ultimately, I mean, I think you have a built-in safeguard here, which is the fact that the people who are putting on these ads are ultimately trying to get people to buy their products. And what the last thing they want to do is offend the vast majority of people out there who might come.
But the line seems to be moving, right? I mean, what?
Maybe we're getting more laid back, and if that's the case, I actually think it's a good thing and wouldn't be unhappy about it. And I don't think it necessarily means we're on a slippery slope to suddenly being incredibly offensive. It might just mean we understand that not everything that identifies a minority group is necessarily a bad or offensive thing.
Last quick point, Adam?
I think there will always be people to take offense, however little there is to take offense at. And you know what? All power to those folks because they get to be on television and the rest of us, well, I shouldn't say don't. Most people don't. And that's their business and they're good at it. So credit to them.
Thanks so much, guys. That was fun.
Thank you.